Mindset Go Mondays. I am with Mark Altman, here with Jimmy Young.
You're Mark Altman with Mark Altman? That's pretty good. You were doing so well
Jimmy,
up to that point.
Segments, so I'm trying to keep up at this point.
That's all right. It was great.
So, Jimmy, I thought a great topic for us to finish up on is the art of the interview tonight. If you think about what we do at Mindset Go on these shows, we're interviewing on every show. And I really view you as a mentor of mine. I watch you interview, and I'm amazed at how seamless and effortless it is for you. And I would love for you to maybe share some tips and strategies with our audience of how you become such a good interviewer and the keys to being a good interviewer.
I think that's so funny coming from you because you are the master of the question, okay? And the thing about an interview is, yes, questions are important, but the preparation, the research, and you just have to sit back, listen, and have a conversation with someone. Don't worry about, make sure you ask this question or that question. No. First of all, you always have a question in the back of your head ready to go anyway. But once you start talking to someone and listening to them, your mind's just going to start naturally thinking about interesting topics. Because, first of all, your daughter, amazing. Your son, both sons, amazing. And she's easy to interview because I asked her one question, she went off for 90 seconds. It was pretty good.
But Jimmy, it seems like to me, you make it sound so easy, and I don't think it's just as simple as all the experience you've had over the course of your career. What is it when you get into those modes where you're struggling to come up with that question, and you freeze? Like, how do you overcome that fear?
Keep talking, and just talk. And again, that's never been difficult for me, needless to say. But I appreciate all the things you are saying, Mark. And I think it keeps going back to what we talk about in an interview workshop, and that is listening, talk topics, not necessarily questions, but talk topics, things that you find interesting about the person you're talking to, because that's going to be how the interview or the conversation evolves. Roy Firestone, who you and I probably remember. Anybody who watched Jerry Maguire might remember the scene with Cuba Gooding at the end. And Roy Firestone was one of the best interviewers of all time. Do you know why people used to say that? Because he did research enough that the people he talked to were so comfortable talking to him when he asked them questions about their mothers or their childhood or something, that he knew them. So they were able to open up and he got people to talk about things that they'd never said before. And that's really the goal of a great interview is, can you get that exclusive comment?
Well, and Jimmy, I just want to go back to something you said a couple of minutes ago, which I think most people don't put enough emphasis on, and that's listening. Because when you think of preparing for an interview, you're thinking of talking and asking questions, but the listening piece is arguably the most important.
Yes, and our gender is really challenged by this, I just want to say, okay?
It's true.
And it's so funny because people always, needless to say, in my real life, sometimes people have actually questioned my listening ability. And they're 100% right, because it is selective listening. But when you're paid to be in that chair, asking good questions and listening to the person you're talking to, you'd better pay attention. So that better be your selection, and that better be the most important thing you do.
Well, and one other thought on this, Jimmy, too, you talk about engaging another human being, and let's face it, most human beings like talking about themselves. They like talking about their own interest.
Not me. One of my favorite subjects. And by the way, don't get me started about my body because we will turn off everybody.
That's great. That's great.
Constantly and permanently in rehab. That's the way I look at it.
So if you have aspiring journalists watching our broadcast tonight, and you were to give them one piece of advice, one action of something that you would say, if nothing else, do this, what would you give the advice to our viewers out there?
Read. Nobody reads anymore. Nobody reads books anymore. Nobody does. You do research online. The internet has spoiled us all. But if you take advantage of what it really is, an information source, read as much information as you possibly can about either a subject that you're interested in or a person that you're interested in. I used to read a lot of biographies, mostly sports books. Used to drive my mother crazy. And she said, why don't you do that? Because I love sports. So I'm interested enough that I want to read about it. Whatever your passion is, identify it and then learn more about it. Because if you're truly a student of the game, a student of sports, a student of music. You're always learning. I always learn something from people in sports.
And I think for our viewers out there to remember, I think when you're interviewing, I think it's important to remember that to be more focused on being passionate about the person than the topic, because if you care enough about another human being, that's going to show.
And I care about everybody. I really do.
I think that's true. I think that's true. So for tonight, that's going to be our wrap on a wonderful night. Before we sign off, I would like to thank our technical director and show producer, Alex Barth, Scott Mullally, Aaron Babcock, for all the great work. For those of you at home, you have to realize there's so much work that goes into putting these professional webcasts, and everybody works so hard. So I want to thank you to those three guys and everybody else that put this together tonight. We look forward to seeing you on the next Mindset Go Monday, which will be July 11th. We will see you then. Have a great July 4th, and good night.